Formula E returns to South America, bringing the party to Brazil. Jake Dennis wins in Mexico City. Berline does the double interior, and Bern takes the checkered flag. Da Costa wins for Porsche on the streets of Cape Town. Prepare to be electrified. Sao Paulo, are you ready?
Bem-vindos! Welcome! We are in Sao Paulo, Brazil for the very first time. This is round 6 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, and I can tell you this, it's going to be really, really exciting this weekend. It's the third race in a row that we are racing on a brand new track. And like I said, we are in Brazil, and joining me is the main man himself, Oliver Askew. Now, Oliver, there's a rumour going around the paddock that you've got quite the samba hips on you, my friend. Show the world!
No,
show
not
the
me.
world! Don't be
I've
shy!
got stage fright.
Show the
I've got
world!
stage
Come
fright.
on, show the world!
Come on.
Show the world!
Let's talk about the track.
I'm not going to continue
Let's talk about the
talking
track.
until you do me
We
some
have a couple
samba.
of guests here
no,
with
I'm
us.
leaving. Samba, or else I am leaving.
This isn't Dancing
Samba,
with the Stars.
Samba. There you
I
go, ladies and
I don't know
gentlemen.
what a samba is even.
There you go. That's the worst
What's a samba?
That's terrible,
Show
my
me
friend.
what a samba is. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, let's talk racing. Let's talk cars. We are in Sao Paulo. We are in Brazil, and it's fantastic to be here. The atmosphere so far really is, and I love saying this, it's electric, ladies and gentlemen. Oliver, this is our third track, as I said, brand new track in a row. It must be difficult for the teams to keep coming to these new tracks that we've never raced on.
It is, but it never ceases to amaze me how accurate the simulations and the track scans are. So all these guys up and down the grid have spent hours on the simulator. They know this track. The only factor is the bumps here, because the track has been repaved on half of the circuit. It is pretty bumpy, as we've seen in Shakedown, and there's a couple of different track pavement throughout the surfaces throughout the circuit, which is going to change grip throughout the corners.
Yeah, if you drive on a pavement round here, you're in trouble, my friend.
Yes.
All right, let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship. It looks like this. Even though they scored no points in Cape Town, South Africa, Pascal Wehrlein and the one and only Jake Dennis are sat at the top of the table. But look who's behind them. The one and only Jean-Eric Vergne and former teammate Antonio Felix da Costa closely behind. And then we've got Nick Cassidy, the Kiwi for Envision Racing, and then we've got Sebastian Buemi as well from the same team. Rennie Rast is in there with Neon McLaren, Sam Bird, Jake Hughes, two Brits back-to-back, and then propping up 10th, we've got Lucas de Grassi. We have mentioned that we are in Brazil, so let's welcome a gentleman who's got his very own home race. Come in, Sergio Setti, camera first. Thank you, welcome. Lovely to see you, very good. Now, being a true Brazilian, obviously you can samba.
No way
You can samba.
I'm going to do that. I was watching you guys do it, and I was just commenting with Dan. There's no way, there's nothing in this world that is going to make me do that performance.
Oh, come on, my friend.
No, that peer pressure is not going to work here.
All right, okay.
You fell into it.
He
I
did
did,
fall
I
into
did.
it. Well, yeah, he's thrown me under the bus in the past, so I've thrown him under the bus. Big question, what's it like racing in front of your home crowd? It's going to be mega, right?
It's special. I will only know when I finally do it. I have never had a race in Brazil during my professional career. Formula 3, Formula 2, Junior Series have never, they never race in Brazil, do they? So, and even during my years as a reserve driver in Formula 1, I was never in Brazil. So it's my first time, and I've been loving it until now.
Oh, it's fantastic, and we can tell by the fact that lots of people keep coming over to the garage for Neo 333, asking for autographs and photographs. You must be really proud of what you've established yourself personally.
Yeah, I'm proud that also the Formula E is here. Part of this interaction that we get is all the publicity, good job with the marketing the championship has done. It's pretty crowded for Friday, so I'm looking forward to see how it will be tomorrow. But it seems to be, if you speak with people around the city, everyone knows the event is happening, everyone knows what Formula E is, and it's only the first year of a contract of 5. So we have 5 years to build a following in the country, and already in the first year, you were laughing. I thought Dan was doing something.
Laughing at me.
We have 5 years to build, like, the public, and already in the first year I can see a big following. So it's promising.
Excellent stuff. Let's bring in Dan Tixham, your teammate. Welcome, Dan. Lovely to see you. Clammy hands. Must be nervous for free practice one. Gentlemen, you've got 19 points, 8th in the table, the team's championship. It's going really well for you guys, and I think there's something special in this relationship between you both, right?
Yeah, I think we get on very well. I'm sure he will agree. It's been a strong season for us compared to last year. Last year was very tough, as everyone knows. But yeah, one lap pace this year so far has been particularly good. So yeah, overall pretty happy.
So on paper, there's a couple of teams behind you in the teams championship that have more resources than Neo 333. Do you think you guys are going to be able to continue to stay ahead of them through the rest of the season?
Look, I think it's going to be tough. I think it's a testament to us both and obviously all the people here at the track working. I think we've really maximised what we've got. To be honest, hopefully the efficiency side we can keep improving. But why do you keep smacking? But yeah, no.
He keeps making me laugh as well.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, doing it on purpose.
He's happy to be employed, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can. Yeah, if we keep going like we're going, I think we can stay ahead. Yeah. All right. In the championship would be, for a team would be great.
And you've both put in some great performances so far. Let me ask you this question. I know that you're about to go out and do FP1. What do you know about this track, and what can we expect from the race? What have you seen so far that's interesting, Sergio?
Very long straights, the longest in the season. Because of the samba, this type of performance we've seen here, it's very a wide avenue. The cars, we call it carro alegórico in Portuguese. They're huge, very wide, so it's going to be hard to defend because not only is it a long straight, big coasting points, especially for us, the most inefficient powertrains will coast earlier. But then also when you get to the braking point, it's very wide, and you can make a move anywhere you want. Harder for the driver which is defending, favorable for the driver who is attacking, and it's at least 4 of straights like this. It's not just turn 1.
Yeah.
It's also turn 4.
Lots of
turn
heavy
7,
braking
and
down
turn
the straights as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, a lot of heavy braking and overtaking opportunities. It's the fast cars will go through the field and will get a good result, and I think we just have to qualify well and try to stay there, get a good toe, and get into the rhythm to score some points.
You're itching to get going,
I agree.
aren't you?
I mean, yeah, I've always got a bit of nervous energy, but I think it's a good track to promote good overtaking. The grid, it's not very dirty offline. A lot of Formula E tracks sometimes see it can be quite dirty offline. Here, it's clean very well, so I think we'll see some good moves.
Brilliant, good stuff. Nice, looking forward to it. It's going to be a really good race. Gentlemen, you go and get ready for free practice 1. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And we do wish you all the very best of luck for the race. All eyes are on you guys this season. You've given us some great races so far, so thank you very much. And give your mic to the gentleman called Mike. Can you believe it? All right, let's go over to Nikki and Saunders. Thank you.
Well, it's great to get so excited about the race here in Sao Paulo, but we do have to look back for a moment because a couple of weeks ago we were treated to a monumental race in Cape Town. It was truly epic, and one guy who moved himself up from 8th to 4th in the championship was Antonio Felix da Costa with a win that came out of nowhere. I think the second driver in Formula E history to manage to win and be on the top step of the podium from qualifying outside the top 10. What an achievement, Saunders.
I mean, to say he smashed it would be a massive understatement, because it wasn't just about the move that got the win, it was the move that got the build up to the win, the move on Cassidy to begin with, which was an incredible move. So brave, so brazen. We take a look at it now, it's unbelievable. And interestingly, he got himself into a great position here, but he then missed the attack mode activation zone just shortly afterwards and had to do all the hard work again. He had to make good of a terrible situation before making a final move on Jean-Eric Vergne for the win. And what a move that was as well. I mean, it's unbelievable.
He really did lay all of his cards on the table, got away with the move by the skin of his teeth. It was an emotional win for him. He really said afterwards that he felt like there was so much pressure coming from all angles. People were really, he was worried that people were starting to lose faith. So he knew how much the win meant. But interestingly, he did say, in hindsight, he might not have pulled it off again because there was so much risk. But he did manage to make it stick. So congratulations to Antonio Felix da Costa, who is now just a couple of points off his old rival, Jean-Eric Vergne, in the championship. But let's look at the strategy that Antonio Felix da Costa was using as well, and how critical that is maybe coming into Sao Paulo.
Yeah, I mean, that win, it wasn't just about the overtakes. There was a really dedicated strategy there from him and the team to make good of the bad situation, sit behind Jev, save energy, push him to use more energy, and then make the move and disappear. And that's going to be crucial here. We've talked about it, haven't we? The drivers have mentioned a few things about this circuit being very energy hungry, and efficiency is important. Things like keeping in the slipstream, that kind of thing is going to be absolutely crucial here.
It is. Slipstreaming is definitely going to be a word we're talking about a lot this weekend. The other teams that we got to mention here, Maserati. Things don't seem to be going their way at the moment. Now, Maserati, they were such a strong contender last season under the Venturi name, pretty much always fighting for championship title. And now they've had 4 DNFs, 1 DNS. What's going on there?
It's a really tough one at Maserati because the package is there. You know, we've seen it since testing that they've been fast, but there's moments like this, you know, call it bad luck, call it whatever. The truth is it isn't the car, it's not the team, it's drivers' mistakes.
And what about a Jaguar? Because there's another big mistake there from Sam Bird. Is that driver error?
I think less so than Maserati because we have seen Jaguar on a podium already with Sam Bird in Diriyah. So I think with Maserati, it's more about, you know what, these new cars, they're hard to drive. It's about getting used to the grip, it's about getting used to the way the power works, the traction. And it's not that they're bad drivers or any worse than others on the grid, it's just they're maybe on the wrong side of limits. With Eder Mortara and Maximilian Günther. You know, it's 5 incidents in 5 races for Mortara, and Maximilian Günther has no points to his name, despite having started on the front row. So we've just got small tweaks, and they could be there. Same with Jaguar.
No one would have predicted that, that is for sure. We also do just have to say a quick welcome back to Robin Freins, who, of course, broke his wrist at the start of the season, has missed out on 4 races so far, so the challenge is really going to be on his hands this weekend, but great to have him back racing for the Abt Cupra team. Now, there is one guy who knows these streets better than anyone here in Sao Paulo, and he's talking to Radzi.
Lucas de Grassi, some drivers are lucky enough to have a home E-Prix in their own country. You're having it in your home city. What does this mean to you?
Well, it's amazing. It's been so much work to try to bring Formula E to Brazil from everywhere, from everyone, since day 1 of Formula E. So we finally managed to get it done, and I'm super proud, super happy to be able to race here in front of my family, friends, and all the fans, and to show Formula E to the Brazilian people.
The work you've personally done is amazing. In Sao Paulo, one of the most famous sons, Ayrton Senna. We know how much we love motorsports here. In terms of electric racing, how big do you think it could be in years to come?
Brazil loves motorsport, but they still, because of a series of issues with broadcasting, with racing here and so on, Formula E still hasn't taken off. And I think this is the first step. I think having long-term commitment here, growing every year, step by step. We have already in the first year like 40,000 people coming. So it is a huge step towards making Formula E more known in Brazil, São Paulo, but also in Brazil. And we have a huge legacy of motorsport heroes from São Paulo, like Fittipaldi, Senna. So it is a great environment to be racing.
40,000 people will be epic, by the way. The energy will be off the charts. But in terms of yourself, 4 weeks ago, the rarest of rare things happened. You didn't start in the race. Yourself, Mahindra, Abt Cupra, the suspension issue there. What was that down to? What was the problem?
Literally just a few grams of material in one of the suspension, which we added, and now it's fixed. It was something very simple, but because Cape Town was very bumpy, it was something that we never raced before. It was an extreme circumstance with very high grip and bumpy. The suspension couldn't take it. But now it's fixed, and it should be fixed for... Here is not a problem at all, but for tracks like Rome, which you could have this problem, now it's fixed.
You sound like a confident man. On Instagram, I heard you say it's all about the podium. That's what we're after, so you're confident.
Yeah, of course. I think here, strategically, the race is going to be very hard, very hot. Slipstream will play a big effect, so we need to start there on the top 10, and then I think we have a good chance of scoring a podium.
So knowing the crowd, 40,000 people, we're backing you and the Brazilians as well. Does this mean you're going to roll the dice, maybe take a few risks?
We take risks every race, right? But we need to be smart. I think more than taking risks is taking good risks. Risks that can leap a good reward, and definitely we're going to do it. We have nothing to lose, really.
And just finally, from this track, what can we expect for the first ever E-Prix here in Sao Paulo?
I think the racing is going to be amazing due to the slipstream effect and this strategic... The straight is the longest straight of the season, so we're going to reach in quali maybe 270, 280 kph, which is the highest we ever did. And it's going to be tricky braking, it's going to be tricky in the back there. It will be a difficult track, and then on the race, there is the energy element, which also it's the most sensitive for this matter here in São Paulo.
Properly exciting, high speed, and potentially the highest volume will be when this man drives past the crowd, because the Brazilians are going to go crazy.
Now Nice one, Razzie. Good work, fella. Yeah, here we are in the pit lane. So that is pit in over there, and this is pit out, which will be behind us, Oliver. It's a shame that Lucas de Grassi there in Cape Town missed his first ever Formula E race with the suspension issue. Obviously the same issue that Abt had as well. But this is a new track. It's a new dawn, as they say. And because it's a new track, is it more or less difficult for a driver to come into a new venue?
Well, I think it levels the playing field a little bit. You know, the driver who can take the most risks in FP1 and to hit the ground running, take what they've learned in simulation and what the conversations they've had with their engineers and put it to work and progress with the track, you know, get in that rhythm. I speak about it all the time in Formula E. That's so important. So that's an astonishing fact to hear that was the first race that he's missed in Formula E. I think it'll be important for him here at his home race to, get back at it. And Lucas de Grassi's a lion. He's so passionate about racing, and he's so proud to be a Brazilian. It's going to be cool to see him perform.
He's like the old Jedi master, isn't he, of Formula E in the paddock, walking around like with his Jedi powers. So it's going to be beautiful. Temperature now is settling because we're just about to do FP1. Let's go back to this track. Lots of straights. Everyone keeps saying lots of straights, lots of straights. Obviously, if you're hooning it down one of those straights, you're going to have to put on the brakes. So does that mean we're going to regen a lot more energy?
Yes, so this track has the highest braking energy and regen energy on the calendar, we believe. Obviously, we haven't been out there yet in anger, but from simulation data, that's what we hear. I also hear that the Jaguar-powered cars, that powertrain, so both the Jaguar TCS racing team and Envision have the best deceleration in a straight line, the most stability. So we'll see if that's true. We can maybe expect them to be at the top of the standings in qualifying. And then in the race, I mean, if anything's taught us this year, it's that we cannot predict what's going to happen. With long straightaways and heavy braking corners, we might see quite a bit of coasting, so it's an opportunity for overtakes as well.
All right, good man. Let's find out more about the track with Nicky Shields, shall we?
Well, joining me now is Jake Dennis, having just put in some first laps at the Sao Paulo track here. Jake, just talk us through, what are your first impressions? What are the main characteristics that we need to look through? I'm going to start playing your lap back, but do talk us through what happens.
Yeah, I think, honestly, this track layout is going to promote some really good racing. As you can see, we're on the first straight now, super long. I think this is where we'll reach our highest top speeds of the calendar, so I think we'll even beat Cape Town. Coming to the first braking zone, using the brake markers, which are currently on the inside, but I think we're going to move them to the outside. And it's really the first main sort of technical part of the circuit. We've got really, quite a slow right, left, right. Super understeery here, quite bumpy, and attack mode looks extremely challenging, so I think it's going to be a big time loss here. Still warming up my tyres, just checking out the sort of bumps. Antonio actually had takeoff here. Just under this bridge, there's a really big bump, so we've got to be careful of that. Down into the second chicane, again, another big bump, which is going to make life very difficult on 350. Hopefully, if we get into the duels, super tight chicane. And then, yeah, onto probably the second biggest opportunity of the overtaking. We've got 4 main points here, which is amazing for Formula E to have 4 big opportunities to overtaking. So I don't think qualifying is going to be too important this weekend. Again, using the brake markers, braking around about 100 meters with this power mode at the moment. Really technical double right. I think it's going to be quite challenging to get this sort of nailed, especially when we arrive at full power. And then coming down into the sort of the final sector, again, a left-right, 90 degrees again. Person on the track there, say hello. And then here, I don't even do the lap. I'm obviously pitting.
Into the pit lane.
But yeah, obviously the final part of the lap is just, again, another 90-degree right, which leads onto a very long straight. So looking forward to it. The simulation looks it's going to create a really good race.
You mentioned at the very beginning that this is a power-hungry track. So is regen going to be absolutely critical here? And does that lend itself to more overtaking?
Yeah, 100%. You know, you just from that lap then, like how long these straights are. And honestly, if you have an energy advantage, which we've been quite fortunate to have this year, I really don't think there's a chance to keep them behind, especially when the targets get lower and, you know, we have to do more and more energy saving as the race goes on. I think you'll see some really cool overtaking in the last, 5-10 laps.
Cape Town, everyone said, I think the way to describe it was demanding. In one word, how would you describe the track here in Sao Paulo?
Overtaking is going to be
overtaking. That's what we like. Awesome. Plenty of action. Jake Dennis, thanks very much.
All right, Thomas Biermeier joins us now from Abt Cupra. Robin Fries is back. Is he all right?
he's fine, and everybody is happy in the team that he's back because we need him. The start was not easy for us, and now it's a kind of restart for us, and hopefully he can support and he can help.
I'll tell you what, I've seen the scars, pretty impressive. I mean, that's some surgery the guys had there.
Yeah, it was a huge incident, so, and for him, we are a little bit surprised that he's back at that time, because the first word what the doctor said, it takes 3-4 months. So it was a little bit quicker now because he's a fighter, and now we will see a fighter in the car, hopefully, yes.
So he obviously did Sebring the the WEC race last weekend. That car, the LMP2 car, has power steering. This does not. How do you think that's going to affect him in the car?
He was already fine before Cape Town. We had him in the sim, and he said, I can run. And then we had a discussion with the FIA, and then the FIA said, no, it's still not everything recovered, so you should make a break until Brazil. And then he did the Sebring last week, so he felt fine, and he did the shakedown now. It's a little bit harder in that car compared to the WEC car, clearly, but until now everything is fine, and he's motivated, and hopefully everything goes well.
We've been talking about this brand new track. We've been talking about the straights. From you as a team, what have you noted about the intricacies of this new track here in Sao Paulo?
First of all, it's good that we have now a different track layout compared to the other tracks. So there's one big bump. You saw it, I think, the airline car, it was jumping, but the rest of the track is fine, and you need a good brakes. Hopefully we have good brakes, and then we want to be a little bit more competitive compared to the first races.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much for chatting to us. Always
Thank you
a
so
pleasure.
much. Thank you.
Good luck this weekend. Let's bring in, I'll take that, thank you. You go back to your position quick, we're about to go. Let's welcome in Nelson. Nelson, you've driven a car around here. What's it like?
I must say it's much more power than I expected, especially compared to the Gen 1 car. I mean, what a difference. Lighter, more power, just overall very fun. I mean, I wasn't expecting that much of a yeah. I mean, it's oof. It was really
how hard
fun.
were you pushing out there?
I wasn't pushing that.
No,
I wasn't pushing that much. I mean, I was just really happy to be driving the car, and I just felt so good. I mean, the car's lighter, so you went in the left-right-handers. It just, I was used to the older car, which you could feel the weight going left and right. Now it just feels more as closer to like a real race car. It's just getting really fun.
And what about the tyres? My friend Thomas Sambikler was saying that these are quite the tyre.
Look, I mean, we see the drivers pushing really hard and struggling a bit to generate temperature. Honestly, I mean, I was so impressed with the power and everything that I think it's over 100 kilos lighter than last generation's car. So I didn't even notice. I mean, I wasn't pushing enough to try to see the tires harder or something. But
and the track itself, what do you think?
The track is okay. I mean, these long straights are going to be really fun. Yeah. Especially for toes, as we know that these cars are getting faster and faster. A lot of drag in these new cars, and efficiency is playing a big game when you're really behind someone. Sure. So it's going to be a big effect during the race. It's going to be fun to see the leader wanting to give up position, to try to save energy.
It'll be good to lead here.
It's going to be really fun to see that. It's going to be. Let's see how they're going to play out.
Let me usher you this way. Let's go this way. Let's go this way, Nelson, so that we don't get into trouble.
Guys are getting into
we don't get run over because we're about to
FP1.
start FP1. But is the difference noticeable straight away as soon as you started in this new car?
Definitely. I wasn't expecting at all this power, and no, I still have the smile on my face from these laps. I wasn't expecting it to be that fun.
Was it physical? Was the steering heavy? Were you surprised by that? That's what we hear down the grid.
It was similar to what I was used to. It was, I think that didn't change. Obviously, the quicker the car gets, the less time you have to breathe in the straights, and then the car's lighter, so you're going to brake deeper, you're going to have to turn quicker. So obviously, everything becomes a bit quicker. So physically and naturally, it will become tougher. The quicker the car gets, the harder physically gets on the drivers.
Nice. Yeah, good. I'm excited. And let's talk about strategy for this race. How do you think it's going to pan out quickly? Because we've only got 27 seconds.
Well, like I said, we were talking about, it's going to be fun to see what the leader is going to do in the beginning of the race, if he's going to give up position or not, because drag over here and being on the toe is going to play a big effect for the results of the race.
All right, we're really looking forward to it. It's really exciting. And it's the debut race of Sao Paulo. It's going to be awesome here in Brazil. All right, let's hand over to our commentators, shall we? Because we're going to see this track on fire, literally. It's time for FP1 here in Sao Paulo.
This magnificent city is hosting Formula E for the first time, one of the largest cities in the world. And Sao Paulo is the venue for round 6 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. And this sprawling metropolis with its racing heroes throughout the years, it's got some new ones now with Sergio Sette Câmara and Lucas Di Grassi both racing in round 6 of the season. And it is really fantastic. After a lot of years of potentially coming to Brazil, finally Formula E has made it for the 2023 Julius Baer Sao Paulo E-Prix. A very good afternoon, everybody. It's just coming up to 4:30 in Brazil, and we are getting ready for the first half hour of practice in free practice 1. The second practice session coming up tomorrow morning, qualifying tomorrow morning as well, and then the race getting underway tomorrow afternoon. The 6th round of the championship, and after this we head to Berlin for a double-header in Germany, Monaco, then back off far-flung to Jakarta and Portland, a double-header in Rome and a double-header in London to end the season. We've already had races in Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Hyderabad and Cape Town. And we are either, depending on which way you look at it, we're already a third of the way through the season, or we're only a third of the way through the season, whichever way you want to look at it. And people in the different championship positions will be looking at it in different ways. Antonio Felix da Costa taking victory in the last race in Cape Town. The Portuguese driver doing a tremendous job. Sam Bird will have a 5-place grid drop this weekend after his collision with Mitch Evans 2 races ago. Robin Freitz returns after breaking his hand in Mexico City at the opening race of the season, but Pascal Wehrlein is still the championship leader for the Tag Heuer Porsche team. But Sergio Sette Câmara is here to enjoy his weekend at his home race. And as I said, Pascal Wehrlein is the man at the top of the championship. 80 points for the German, 18 ahead of Jake Dennis, and then John-Eric Verne is 3rd, Antonio Felix da Costa is 4th, Nick Cassidy is 5th. Those 3 drivers were the 3 drivers in the podium in the last 2 E-Prix, albeit in different orders each time. Lucas Di Grassi, the top of the Brazilians, in 10th place with 18 points. And then you've got Stoffel van Dorn, the reigning champion, down in 13th place, only 11 points for him. Sergio Sette Câmara on 10. No points yet for Max Günther, Nico Müller, Kelvin van der Linde, and for Robin Freitz. And that championship lead for the Porsche driver of Antonio Felix da Costa, coupled with the victory last time out for Antonio Felix da Costa, means that those 2 are at the top of the team's championship as well. Well clear to be honest, of Envision Racing. Avalanche Andretti have dropped down to 3rd after Jake Dennis failed to score in the last 2 races. Neon McLaren at 4th, Apt the only team yet to get off the mark. And this is the circuit for round 6 of the season in Sao Paulo. You can see there, that is Ibirapuera Park, a huge open public park, which is a little to the south of the old city centre. A little to the north, just over the Chieti River, is this circuit. It's classic Formula E, 90-degree corners, hairpins, chicanes, attack mode on the outside of turn 3. The chicane at turn 4, 5 and 6 punctuates the long back straight. And then there's plenty of good overtaking opportunities here as well. One of them is this 90-degree right-hander at turn 7. Just before turn 7 is where we're going to see maybe the fastest ever Formula E top speeds. 90-degree right-hander at turn 11 brings you out across the line, and that is a lap of this 2.933 kilometer, 11-turn Sao Paulo E-Prix circuit. Not the first time there has been racing here, but IndyCar has raced here before, but it's a brand new circuit. Track temperature 49 degrees, air 33 degrees. New rule for this weekend, you don't have to remain in the garage to wait for the lights to go green, because people are coming from opposite sides. So it's a little different here. We've never seen cars queuing up at the end of the pit lane in Formula E before. Now we do. Cars out on circuit, the 2 Neon McLarens joining the track straight away. My name's Jack Nichols. With me in commentary is our pit lane reporter Nikki Shields and the Season 1 Formula E champion Nelson Piquet. And Nikki, it's been actually, no, Nelson. We've got to come to Nelson first, haven't we? We're talking about being in Brazil.
I'll take that. All
I know,
right,
well,
fair
I was going
enough.
to be like,
Don't
here
worry,
we
I
are in
won't take it
Brazil, Nikki.
personally.
What do you think? Actually, Nelson's the man to ask about being in Brazil.
Go on, Nelson.
It's been amazing. Just done a couple of laps. Didn't expect it to be so fun. The car has a lot of power. The track is great. It is a little bumpy, but I mean, nothing that all Formula E drivers and teams are used to. So, I mean, with the big straights over here, it's going to make an amazing race. As we've been seeing, the tracks that have a lot of straights are causing a lot of toes and a lot of strategies to be played during the race. So it's going to be, obviously here you have two big straights, so that's going to be fun to see in the beginning of the race, the leader probably giving up position and trying to get somebody's toes. And so, yeah, it's
loud and clear.
It's fun.
Go
it's
race,
a challenging
go race.
track. It's great to be finally back in Brazil. And yeah, I mean, shame we weren't here in first season, but we're here.
Better late than never, isn't it, to be honest? 28.5 minutes to go as they come down now through the left-hand kink at turn 9, and then this is across the start line. Rubens Barrichello here this weekend, the former Formula 1 driver, 322 Formula 1 starts, 11 wins, 68 podiums. Never quite won the World Championship, but great to have Rubens here as well. Nikki, your thoughts on Brazil?
Well, it's absolutely fantastic to be here, Jack. As you mentioned, you know, it's taken a while. There were many plans to be in Rio, Sao Paulo early on in season 4. So it's been a long time coming, but we have made it. So huge congratulations to the teams and everyone involved for creating such a track. And off the back of what Nelson was saying as well, this is going to be such a difficult race to predict. Even when we see qualifying results and we see how the grid lines up, strategy is going to be absolutely crucial here. I think we're going to see a lot of slipstreaming into play here, which we've seen a little bit in the past, but I think we're going to see it more so here than ever. Again, it's this power-hungry track, so regenerating the guys that can be the most efficient driver as possible and regen as much as they can, they're going to really succeed here.
So full course yellow practice. You've got Scott Elkins there in the middle, and he is just testing all the marshalling facilities around the circuit, and then the racing or the green flag will wave and they will get back up to speed. Big slide from Sam Bird as he
Delphine
gets back on the power.
Sorry to interrupt you. That was Delphine Biscay alongside Scott there, who used to be the team manager at Venturi. She's popped back to say hello.
Yeah, that's very nice. Here is a look at the Envision car of Nick Cassidy as he comes around the final couple of corners. So we'll give you a proper look then at this Sao Paulo circuit. He's about to come into the final 2 corners, the 90-degree left-hander at turn 10, then the 90-degree right-hander at turn 11, and then he will come charging down to turns 1 and 2. A lot of long straights, Nelson, on this circuit. It's really quite not something we've seen in Formula E before, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, it is, has a lot of straights, but I mean, it will cause good racing because more straights there are, the more drivers will be trying to get each other's toes, save energy. It's all about strategy, these races, you know. If you come towards the last few laps and you have more energy than the guy in front of you, you know you're going to get around him. Unless it's Jev or someone hard to get around, but it's going to be a fun race. And there's going to be strong braking points as well, so the cars we have seen, like the McLarens that are very good, very stable in their braking, they might have maybe a bit of an advantage over here because there's strong braking points. Not very high-speed corners, a lot of stop chicanes or hairpins. So it's going to be a lot about braking power, good traction, and then it's not going to be a track where you're worried about the balance on the high-speed tracks like we saw in Cape Town. There's a lot of high-speed corners. So over here, the driver's going to be maximizing all the setup on the braking and acceleration.
Nelson, in terms of the track temperature, we're looking at one of the hottest races we've seen. I think it's predicted to be about 60 degrees by the time we race tomorrow. How much of an effect is that going to have on managing these new Hankook tyres?
Look, I think they went through that a little bit in Hyderabad in India. I think it was as hot as equal as Sao Paulo. Look, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. It's a good tire. It's harder than the Michelin, so I don't think they're going to have much. It's going to be much easier for them to warm the tires, obviously, because of the hot weather. But I don't see it being an issue. I mean, the teams are still figuring it out. What's the optimal setup to use these tires? You know, how to bring them up. What's the best way to do it? It's been a learning progress for all the teams and drivers. So we'll see now in qualifying as well what kind of procedures they're going to be using to try to get the optimal lap.
What's quite interesting as well is because it is this power-hungry track, but it also is a very hot race we're going to experience. At a certain temperature, there's obviously the optimum sort of operating window for these cars, but over a certain temperature, they start to lose a bit of power in the front powertrain. The sort of main effect is they're losing the regeneration capability, i.e. when you're putting energy back into the battery. Now that's critical at a racetrack like this, because if you're not putting enough energy back into the battery, you're going to have less energy over the course of the race. So managing that, I think, will be quite interesting, and which teams can do that the best.
Yeah, basically, the warmer the tire gets, if it goes over the optimal, the less grip it has. So the less you can put energy into regenerating, into braking in the front axle. So, but everybody's gonna. That's more for qualifying. But in the race, everybody's sort of going to be in the same strategy and sort of the same rhythm. You know, everybody has a very similar car. The only difference is the rear powertrain, but it ends up being very small difference. You know, what happens to the tires. So, for qualifying, obviously, if you manage to find the right window of the car, obviously you can manage to extract more grip. But for the race, you know, everybody ends up heating the tires more and more and more throughout the race, and then you have to regen a bit less because you start locking the front wheels and you have less regeneration.
So hashtag Sao Paulo E-Prix if you want to get in touch. Owen asks, how far is this track from the Carlos Pache circuit? Well, a popular Maps app tells me it would take an hour and a half to drive there.
Yeah, it depends
it's about
on
40
traffic.
kilometers. Yeah, exactly. And the traffic's often not great here?
If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I think we can do it in about 40 minutes, I would say.
Oh, wow, okay. But that's if you're driving, though, not if I'm driving.
In the normal, during the day at midday, I would say, yeah, a good an hour 20 minutes, I would say, at least.
I'm also going to flag the fact that yesterday there was a strike on the public transport. So everyone was on the roads. So you could imagine how much congestion there was. Not fun. Not fun at all.
There's Oliver Turvey next to Nigel Beresford in the DS Penske garage. Turvey, the driver advisor. I suppose, oh, he's taking a lot of curb there, Jean-Eric Verne, isn't he? Coming down into that left-hander. Looks like you can really, well, whether that's ideal or not, Nelson, I'm not sure, but the drivers are exploring the limits, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. That's something the first thing you need to do is find what's the limit you can use on these curves. Feel them, see how high they are. Some corners you're going to be able to use a lot, some you won't. So yeah, that's the first thing you need to do when you come to a track is explore the limits of the corners and figure out if it's worth it or not.
Push again if possible, push again if you can.
Maybe you lose a bit of, maybe the car airbornes, I don't know how you say it in English, but airbornes a little bit. But the amount of track you can cut, maybe it's worth it. So it's normal for the first practice for all of them to kind of explore a little bit as the first time they're here and see what's worth doing.
21 minutes to go. I was just thinking, Nicky, when Delphine Biscay popped up at the front of next to Scott Elkins, I was like, I recognize that woman. I know who she is, but because she's not in Venturi gear, I had no idea and just couldn't work it out. Here's Jake Dennis coming through the final corner now.
No, I was going to say, it's my pet hate when everyone leaves the track and no one's in team kit. It's really hard to pace everybody. It's very confusing. But it's good to see all the Mahindra drivers. Oh, let's take a look at this replay here with Stoffel Van Dorn.
Ooh. In the tyre barrier, Stoffel Van Dorn took a lot of speed in and couldn't quite get it stopped. The car kind of snapped on him and then a little nudge. How much damage is at the front? It looks a bit wobbly, doesn't it? Looks like he might have to come in to get that repaired.
Just the front nose, that will be quick.
Aghast, Nigel Beresford. 20 minutes to go. Hughes quickest at the moment on a 13.959. In fact, it's a Nissan powertrain 1-2-3 right now with Fenestraz and Nato in there in second and third position. There is the Neo coming towards us now. And that is Sergio Sete Camara, the Brazilian from Belo Horizonte, swinging it through turns 7 and 8. What's he been up to down into turn 1? Here he comes at the back.
he sends it in a bit deep and goes straight on. But less drama for him than for Stoffel Vandoorne. Sergio Sedicamera's been getting kind of mobbed in the pit lane, Nikki, hasn't it? You must have had a lot of attention so far today, Nelson. Lots of selfies and stuff.
I thought you were going to say Nikki.
I've been inside the Gen 3 car, so I've been happy where I was for a while.
But it's good to see, I was going to say, all 22 cars are on track, because obviously we had a huge disaster for the Abt Cupra and Mahindra Racing powertrain last time out. None of those 4 cars could run because they had issues with their suspension safety concerns over weakness in the wishbone. But the good news is the team quickly came up with a new part, a stronger part, and that's what we're seeing them run with today. So all 4 of those cars are back out on track with a vengeance.
Yeah, and they are allowed to, normally once you've homologated your powertrain and the rear part of the car, you're not allowed to change it, but they have been allowed to change that part on safety grounds. So they won't be facing any penalties, which is nice, and we'll see whether they can start to pick up some points again, because it's been a tough year for all of them, to be honest, so far. Obviously, Lucas de Grassi got that podium in the opening race of the season. Oliver Rowland finished 6th in Hyderabad, but those are the only 2 points finishes for those 4 cars all season. Here comes Sergio Sedicamera out of the final corner now and across the line, and he's 2.5 seconds slower than Jake Hughes. So at the moment, doing a bit of race running, I would suggest, for Sergio Sedicamera. Here's a look at Pascal Wehrlein, championship leader. He's into turn 1. He's just going to appear at the back of the shot here. Oh, and he gets a bit of a snap on the way in as well, and corrects it and takes evasive action. So a lot of runoff area down there at turn 1. So drivers are really chucking it in, and it's snapping for quite a few of them at that first corner, Nelson.
Yeah, it's a very you get there pretty quickly. I mean, I was backing off way earlier because the car was really quick. But it's a strong braking point. I mean, and what makes the drivers push even harder under brakes over there, because there's a big runoff area. Obviously, there's the barrier where Stoffel touched his front wing, but otherwise, I mean, if you by any chance miss it, you really have a lot of space. So people are going to be really risking and pushing as much as they can over there to try to brake as late as they can and extract the most they can from the car.
On board with Lucas de Grassi in the Mahindra, pretty much sitting on top of those new wishbones in the rear of the car, and a new helmet this weekend for de Grassi. You can see the flash of yellow as he comes around the final corner. The sort of Brazilian flag inspired. I mean, his helmet's always been fairly Brazilian flag inspired, but he's gone extremely yellow here. And this is the championship leader then, Pascal Wehrlein. Let's see how he manages turn 1 this time around. There's also a kind of change of surface right before the first corner here. No such troubles this time for Wehrlein through turns 1 and 2. Then the tight hairpin right-hander of turn 3. Attack mode activation on the outside there. Going to lose a lot of time and positions, I think, when you take attack mode. We saw last time out in Cape Town that, you know, you didn't lose too much time, about a second taking attack mode there, but I think it'll be a bit bigger here. Here's Wehrlein's radio.
Balance, please, thinking about a change at the stop.
So that is Kyle Wilson-Clark, Wehrlein's race engineer, asking for an update on the balance to see whether they make any changes. We're approaching the halfway point in the session. Hughes still quickest, Evans second, Da Costa third, Wehrlein coming through turns 7 and 8, and he was mightily unlucky, wasn't he, in Cape Town?
This has got to be a bit of a redemption race for him. I mean, it was just a really unfortunate. He basically outbraked himself, didn't he, in Cape Town in the first opening lap. I mean, it was a real disaster for him, throwing everything away so early on. But he's back. He's here as competitive as ever. The car is still just as strong. He's had such a dominant start, even though he didn't score any points with that DNF in Cape Town. He's still at the top of the championship with an 18-point gap over Jake Dennis. Let's take a look at Stoffel Vandoorne's damage there to the front nose. Hopefully that shouldn't be too difficult to change, though.
No, they'll just whack that off, whack a new one on, but still a part that they'll have to pay for at the Formula E spares department. Here's René Rast in the McLaren. He is 7th at the moment as he comes into the final couple of corners. 7th in the championship, I should clarify. On the timing screens, he's 17th as he comes into the pits. Ian James, the team principal of the Neon McLaren squad, watching as his other driver, Jake Hughes, comes into the pits also in the other McLaren.
René Rast has had a phenomenal performance in qualifying so far this season. He's been in the duels 4 out of 5 times, which is pretty remarkable, but unfortunately is not managing to bring home quite so many points. So here's a nice little slow-mo of Antonio Felix da Costa in that race-winning Porsche. What a moment for him, an emotional moment, having his first win for Porsche last time out in Cape Town.
Yeah, it was a really nice to see Antonio, because obviously his teammate had sprinted away at the top of the championship and he'd just joined the Porsche team and struggling a little. Well, his qualifying's still not great, to be honest with you. Da Costa, I don't think he's made the duels yet this season. No, 9th in the opening race in Mexico is his best qualifying performance. And remarkably, that was only the 2nd time in Formula E history that a race has been won from outside the top 10, which I did not know and did not believe when I read it, but then I looked it up and it was true. Here's Norman Nato in the Nissan.
Did you look it up in your own notes?
Yeah, exactly. I saw this stat and I was like, that can't be true. I was convinced that Da Costa's win in season 1 in Buenos Aires, he'd come from 12th or something, but he was 8th on the grid. I was convinced Sebastian Buemi had won from a long way back in season 1 as well, but I was wrong in a rather unsurprising turn of events.
How unusual. No, it is very unusual. You're always right.
No, I was being serious.
No, I know you were.
It's pretty regular.
Yeah, I was just being polite.
Yeah, that's very kind of you. Nato across the line, 3rd fastest. Tommaso Volpe, the team principal of the Nissan squad. So Nato 3rd, Fenestraz 5th. Nato hasn't had a great season qualifying-wise either. The Frenchman yet to make it into the duels, although his last race in Cape Town was his best qualifying position in 11th. But his teammate started 10 places up the road ahead of him, Sasha Fenestraz, on pole. Here are the 2 Avalanche Andrettis fighting their way through the final couple of corners, followed by the 2 DS Penskes. So I wonder if they're just running in the tow here to get a bit of information and a bit of data on how much it will affect them, because as you've already mentioned, Nikki, it's going to be pretty quick. Top speed we've had so far, Jean-Eric Verne on 257 kilometers an hour. I don't think anybody... We've had a few drivers go through attack mode. Is Verne one of them? No, he's not. So these are not full power top speed. So I think we'll get a bit more by the end of the session, but probably the fastest top speeds in Formula E history this weekend, after the fastest ever average speed on a lap in Cape Town a month ago. So definitely a lot of power in these Gen 3 cars.
Yeah, I mean, what a result for Sasha Fenestraz, taking his very first pole position out in Cape Town. It was a truly remarkable performance, putting in the fastest average lap time. And he was just so positive and happy about it as well. It was just a shame he ended up not finishing the race. but it just shows that the car and him now have really got to grips. This is his rookie season, of course. He's managed to score a couple of points in his 3rd race out in Diriyah, and I'm sure is hungry for some more.
I think he's been the unluckiest man of the season so far, Sasha Fenestraz. It's really been
oh, that's calling it. I mean, there've been quite a few drivers with a bit of bad luck.
Yeah, but some of them are bringing their own bad luck, whereas Fenestraz, it feels like none of it is to do with him. You know what I mean? Okay. That's what I think anyway. Set a camera across the line now. Look at the 2 Neos running together too. So I think they're definitely exploring the effects of the slipstream here. Bit of stuff on the front right of Sete Camera's car as well, isn't he? So he's been near a wall or something. So 10.5 minutes to go. And
Mitch Evans, sorry,
go for it.
Jinx, although we were talking about something different. No, I was just going to say, hopefully turning things around this weekend is Jaguar Racing, because obviously, whether it's bad luck or driver error, they've had it both on their sides, and things haven't been on their side so far this season. Mitch Evans there at P3, just 0.8 of a second off Jake Hughes at the top.
So there is the top 10 cars are only spread by 3/10. So it is, well, now a little bit more that Jev set a quick lap. But they're running all very close from each other in lap time. So it is going to be an exciting qualifying session tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, down to 19, only 8/10 in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be one of the closest sessions we've seen.
And especially considering they've only been going 20 minutes on this circuit as well. The times tend to sort of get closer as the weekend progresses, and they all, you know, converge a little on the best lap time.
That's due to, you know, a bit more of a simple track, a lot of long straights and hairpin, some normal corners. Coming to tracks like Cape Town, for example, which was really technical and really risky, then you see a bit more of a difference between, you know, the cars. But the track is a little bit more standard over here and a bit more straightforward, so you tend to see much closer lap times. But now, Bird, Jake Dennis, obviously getting quicker, so now it's up to 4/10 from P1 to P10.
And I think this is also a track where turning it up to full power will make a big difference as well, because you've got the long straights in which to use it. Whereas some circuits that we've seen before, the straights aren't almost long enough to really use that extra power. Here's Sasha Fenestraz, pole man last time out, as we say. Yeah, the reason I call him unlucky is because he was really strong in the first qualifying of the season in Mexico City. He qualified 8th, I think, there, which was very impressive, but had a mechanical failure or an electronical failure on the last lap, which meant he didn't score points. Then he was off the pace a bit in Diriyah. I'll accept that, him and the team. But then Hyderabad qualified 4th on the grid, was running 4th until he got wiped out by the two Jaguars colliding, and then got hit off by Nick Cassidy at the end of the Cape Town race in controversial circumstances. So a lot of bad luck, I think, overall for him. Obviously, the same is true of the Jaguars, who are now 1st and 2nd on the times. Evans ahead of Bird, but Bird is actually improving and now goes back to the top of the times by a couple of tenths. What's John-Eric Verne up to here? He is 200ths down on Sam Bird after the first sector. The second sector split comes in between turns 7 and 8. So here, and he's 2 tenths up on Sam Bird. And there's a lot of big laps coming in now, actually. Van Dorn's on a really quick one, Verne's teammate. Dennis has done a very quick sector one, so lap times will start to tumble now. Verne through the final turn in the DS Penske, and he goes 3rd fastest, because René Rast is now at the top on a 1 minute 13.003. Van Dorn that goes quicker than that by 3.5 tenths of a second. Eduardo Mortara coming into turns 4, 5 and 6, really close to the wall on the front right there, wasn't he, Edo? He's well, in the past with Edo, I've said he's an expert at street circuits, which he has been, and gets so close to the wall each time, but it's been a little bit too much for him recently. Quite a few shunts, Eduardo Mortara. Here's Jake Hughes, 8th place at the moment. And he's been a qualifying master this season as well. This is the thing, isn't it, with Formula E? You just everywhere, every car we cut to, they could win. They could be at the front.
I mean, Jake Hughes, though, as you say, I think the best performing rookie we've ever seen in the history of Formula E. I mean, he started in the top 3 in his first 3 races of the season. Absolutely phenomenal, although he hasn't actually been in the dual stages since then. However, you know, that's only been a couple of races. I'm sure that will all change.
Ian James at McLaren, seeing Hughes go fastest by 600ths of a second. Here's Sebastian Buemi. He's just starting a lap now. Did a cool-down lap last time through, 30 seconds off the pace, so a serious cool-down for Buemi. And now gets going again. Sam Bird just did a 47-second off the pace cool-down, so they're really taking that seriously in this sweltering Brazilian sun. Look how bumpy the car is coming through that little kink before the chicanes, and there's a huge bump on the left-hand side as we look at it there too. Some parts of this track sort of recently resurfaced. Some of it is just regular road, so it's a lot of fun. It's still got that way. He's sliding around again, Buemi, as he comes onto the brakes into turn 7 and 8. How's he doing after the middle sector? He's a 10th and a half up here, Sebastian Buemi. He is the joint best qualifier on the season so far. He's got an average of 4.6 on the grid. He's the only driver to have been in the duels every single race so far this season. And now Buemi comes through the final corner. Does he go ahead of Jake Hughes? He does, by over 2 tenths of a second. Big lap there from Buemi. Tictum goes up to 10th fastest at the moment, at the bottom of the... he's happy with that, isn't he, Sylvain? Happy with that one. At the moment, at the bottom of the times is Lucas de Grassi. He's on an out lap, starting his fast lap now. So let's see what the Brazilian can do, coming down towards the first corner, being followed by his teammate Oliver Rowland. De Grassi into turn 1 and 2. That's what he's locking straight up. They're both locking up. It's all a bit carnage. And actually, it's Rowland ahead of de Grassi. My apologies. So de Grassi's managed to paint his helmet so it looks just like Oliver Rowland's. So appreciate that.
They like to keep you on your toes.
Oh, come on, guys.
So that's a bit of a shame, because obviously we're not going to quite know how their timings will do. Well, that's also true, yeah. But locking up there, we won't see how their times compared to the rest of the grid at the moment. But they do have another fast lap left in the bank, I think.
Frederic Bertrand, team principal at Mahindra. And yeah, both of them having front win, and we've seen that many times this season, the Mahindra kind of struggling. You see those 11s laid down by Sete Camara as he came out of the final corner. This could be a bit of fun as he comes down towards the first 2 corners in the Neo 333. His teammate Tictum is 10th fastest. This is a push lap incoming here, I think, from Sete Camara. The first sector split is on the exit of turn 3, which we will see in a few seconds' time. And he's a 10th down in sector 1. We've got Mortara's running clock as well in the bottom right. So keep an eye on Edo's times too. Mortara is just coming up the back straight. He's 10th down in the first sector, so it's not going to be a quick lap for Eduardo Mortara, I wouldn't have thought. Loads of movement in that Maserati as he comes through turns 4 and 5. Sete Camara now 3/10 down, but he still could get him into the top 5 here, Sete Camara.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the home crowd will get behind him and give him an extra 10th at least. But Maserati, gosh, they've had a really tough start to the season. You know, 3 points, that's it. They've had 4 DNFs, 1 DNS. It's just not what we were expecting from them. You know, having been World Championship title contenders last season under the Venturi name.
Mortara has as many retirements as he does points this season. Here he comes across the line and he goes 6th fastest, half a second away from Buemi. So poor first sector from Mortara, but the rest was pretty good, to be honest. Sebastian Buemi in the pits, getting some tyre changes, and both Buemi and Cassidy are under investigation for low tyre pressures, which we've seen a few times this season, to be honest, in free practice sessions. Doesn't usually come with any kind of serious penalty. As Dan Tictum comes down into the first couple of corners. Stoffel van Doorn's just starting a flying lap here in the DS Penske, followed by Robin Freitz in the Abt Cupra. Robin back this weekend after missing the last few races, but he's also missing the first corner. So Van Doorn, I think, very much the focus here. The reigning champion, and it just has, it's qualifying, isn't it, for Van Doorn that is the challenge. Now, watch how bumpy it is coming up towards 4, 5 and 6. Couple of goes at turning it in, a little bit wide of that apex there at turn 5. It always looks a handful to drive for Van Doorn, Nelson.
He likes to try to find the limits of the car. I mean, these cars are not easy at all, especially when you're surrounded by walls, and it's a handful car. I mean, not easy at all, especially with all the traffic around you. Look how many cars he's going by in that lap.
Left-hander of turn 10.
P2 mode, you keep pushing with FP2 mode.
Keep pushing is the message to Van Doorn at the end of the lap. He goes 3rd fastest, just a 10th away from Sebastian Buemi. Tictum went 2nd quickest in all of that. Here's Mitch Evans, who's done the fastest middle sector of anyone. He's 2/10 up on Sebastian Buemi, right up to the wall on the outside there. It's Traffic City here. Oh, that was a tight one with Robin Freitz. Final 2 corners now for Mitch Evans. We're now up to 265 kilometers an hour top speed, 266 there for Evans as he comes out across the line, goes 3rd, 4th fastest, but that was a tight one there.
I think he lost a bit of time in the last sector with traffic. He must have lost a bit.
A few other drivers streaming across the line now to try and improve. And whoa, there's chaos down at turn 1 too. Robin Freitz having a big lock up there. Not sure what all that was about. Checkered flag is out. Here comes Sam Bird through, and he didn't improve on that lap. Half a second slower than Sebastian Buemi in the Jaguar-powered Envision. Here comes Norman Nato out of the final turn. And Nato remains 15th fastest. No one really setting the timing screens alight. Fenestraz and Gunter are doing okay. This is Cassidy. Sorry, that's Buemi finishing his session. Fenestraz goes second fastest in the Nissan. De Grassi takes the checkered flag and finishes 8th. And it's just Gunter who's on a solid enough lap in the middle sector. He's only a 10th or so away, so Gunter could get up into the top 10. He's currently 14th fastest as they stream through. Roland only goes 18th quickest. De Grassi's managed to get up to 8th, which is a solid effort. Here comes Max Gunter through the final corner now in the Maserati MSG, and Gunter goes up into 8th place. 0.3 of a second away from Sebastian Buemi. Hughes across the line. Ticktum and Freintz to come through still. I think there must have been a bit of Freintz traffic chaos because he didn't get a run in on that lap. Here's Buemi's radio.
Okay, that's the checkered flag. If you go push 300, we're still P1 currently. Happy for you to practice turn 4 again.
Connor Somerville on the radio, and Buemi ends the session fastest for the Envision team. His best result this season, Sebastian Buemi, is 4th in Diriyah. He was about to be on the podium in Hyderabad before a penalty put him down to 15th position. He's actually the only driver to have taken the checkered flag in the points at every race, but it doesn't really count because of that. Dan Ticktum, 3rd fastest in the Neo 333. Again, maybe another driver who feels like he hasn't quite. He's always been exciting in qualifying, but hasn't quite had the qualifying performance that he would have wanted. 5th and 4th in the first 2 races of the season, but hasn't made it back to the duels since Dan Ticktum. But again, very close. The top 6 cars, Nikki, separated by less than 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, unbelievable, really. And just back on the point that you were talking about, Sebastian Buemi, he's gone 48 races without a podium. That's longer than anyone else on the grid, which is, yeah, quite remarkable, really, for a Season 2 champion. And he's the highest driver in the championship without a podium finish this season. So there is no doubt in his mind that that is the job that has to be done this weekend here in Sao Paulo.
A few practice starts. Here's Buemi's radio.
So I suggest you launch roughly from where the Andretti is ahead of you, not further than that.
Well, that's interesting. Why wouldn't they want him to practice his launch a little further forward? Don't know. It's an interesting one for Buemi on the radio. Huge lighting up of the rear tyres there from one of the DS Penske's.
So given the fact that we're going to see slipstreaming being such a critical point in the course of this race, is the best qualifying position P2? Or are we still going for pole?
No, I would still think the further ahead, the safer you are in terms of traffic and chaos in the first couple of laps. And it's very easy. After 1 or 2 laps, if you see a bit of a gap between P2, P3, or P3, P4, you can kind of back up a little bit, coast a little bit more, let the guy around you come past. So I would always prefer to start in the front, and then obviously after a couple of laps, everything is settled down. You know, if you want to stay in somebody's toe, then you drop back a little bit.
So here's a look at the results of free practice 1. Sebastian Buemi fastest on a 1:12.341, a 10th ahead of Sasha Fenestraz. Ticktum there in 3rd. Van Dorn, Evans, Rast, Hughes, Gunter, De Grassi and Sete Camara completing the top 10. Both Brazilians making it into the top 10. Championship leader Pascal Wehrlein lurking down in 12th position at the end of that session, missing out on the top 10. And second place man Jake Dennis, only 11th quickest. So who was the highest of the championship contenders, actually? Because Verne is down there as well in 15th, but a long, long way to go. Can't read too much into free practice 1 times, but yeah, Da Costa a second off the pace, Wehrlein half a second off the pace. Robin Freintz, I don't think, got a lap in. I would suggest the same is true for Nick Cassidy in the Envision, because and also Freintz is under investigation as well for a technical infraction. So Sebastian Buemi, quickest in FP1. Sam Bird, 13th fastest, only half a second away from Sebastian Buemi. Looks a little warm, doesn't he, Bird? But he's, I'm sure he'll be fine. I don't think it'll be quite, it's not quite the humidity of your Jakartas and your New Yorks. Here's a look at Dan Ticktum in the Neo 333, third fastest for him, and the points are sort of coming for Neo, but also they're not quite. You know what I mean, Nikki? It's like they're doing a great job, but it feels like they're overperforming, but yet underperforming at the same time. I can't quite get my head around it.
It's been great to see them bringing some of the results in. You know, this is a good season for Neo. Let's not forget, they were always down really at the sort of the very, very bottom end. So for them to be sitting in P8 in the Teams Championship is fantastic. You know, to be finishing, they've had a 5th place finish. So yeah, things are looking up for Neo, I think.
Sebastian Buemi having a wander back down the pit lane. The driver's off to get weighed at the end of the first free practice session. Mitch Evans getting rolled back into the garage, a 10th or so back from that man, Sebastian Buemi, quickest in free practice 1, as you say, yet to get on the podium so far this season. But he's not out of championship contention, Buemi. He's dropped down to 6th now, but, and he's 39 points behind Pascal Wehrlein, admittedly, but it's not impossible. Sacha Fenestraz with having a little chat with Lucas de Grassi.
No, I was going to say there's a great little melee, I think, between Jean-Eric Verne in 3rd and René Rastin in 7th. You know, 22 points, I think, splitting them, so that's exciting.
Jake Dennis hopping out the car and heading towards the back of the garage. Here's a look at the highlights then from the first running on track in Sao Paulo. Nick Cassidy and Sebastian Buemi were first out in the Envisions. Cassidy heading into the first corner. Whoa, huge lockup. What was that? That was the Maserati of Max Günther with a huge lockup down at the first corner. Sete Camera fighting the car. Van Dorn into the tyre barriers and needed a front wing change. Lots of traffic out there too. Pascal Wehrlein, the championship leader, ended the session down in 12th place as he wrestled his car through the first couple of corners. Eduardo Mortara right up to the wall, coming through the chicane at turns 4, 5 and 6. Both Mahindras locking up in unison. Oliver Rowland ahead of Lucas de Grassi, and then both going straight on. Jean-Eric Verne taking the escape road at the first corner as well. But Sebastian Buemi with some impressive pace throughout the session, to be honest. A tyre change for him, and he was back on his way to have one more lap. Bit of a moment there. Maybe it wasn't quite as close as it felt at the time. Mitch Evans going past Robin Freitz on his way to finishing 5th fastest in the Jaguar. But it was Sebastian Buemi, the fastest driver in free practice 1, as he looks to continue his excellent qualifying form. And speaking of qualifying, it gets underway tomorrow, 9:40 local time in Brazil. Free practice 2, 7:30 in the morning. Lucas de Grassi up having a chat with his old squad at Abt. And Nico Muller there, Dan Ticktum, 3rd fastest. The 2 McLaren drivers having a chat there as well. Lots to debrief overnight after the first practice session. But it's a really cool circuit, and I think the grandstands and everything, it's normally where Carnival is held, and was held a month ago at the Sambadromo Anyembi, and that's why there's all the grandstands and all the sort of infrastructure that is perfect for a Formula E race. Ticktum apologising to Antonio Felix da Costa, presumably for a little bit of a traffic miscommunication. Da Costa seems chill about it. Ticktum seems chill about it. It's all right. Right, join us tomorrow morning, 7:30 local time in Brazil for the second free practice session. Race gets underway at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon for round 6 of the season.